Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, back again for another episode of the Swaggy Sports Podcast, where some of our strongest soldiers coming in reporting for duty to have a nice conversation. The consigliere in the top left of the chat, Mr. Pedro Angeli. Nice to see you again. Been a while. I know the people are glad to see your face. Know you have a lot of nice things to say. You squeaked one off our boys last week. We ain't really gonna talk too much about that, but I will give you the hats off. I haven't had a cut in a while, but Mr. Taji, happy to have you here as well. Um, I don't wanted to have a little conversation tonight as we get into week 11. We have about 45 minutes or so until the round one of eternity starts soon. I'm excited. It's a big game for both sides. Top offense against a very good defense. See how it goes. Our games for the past couple years have been good ones, whether the rightful team won or lost. So I'm excited for that. But I wanted to talk about mid-season adjustments and recalibrations. Who's doing what to ensure they will stay a threat when the playoffs begin? We have a couple more weeks left. I think of I don't think they're going to do it this year, but I always think of how the Bengals, they recalibrate, adjust, and they find a way to get into the playoffs. I think about even though that Rams team that same year, the roster was loaded, but they were just playing very good football towards the back end of the season. And I think a lot of the dance has to do with who's playing the best right now. And I think it starts early on within the last like 4 or 5 games of the season. So I think there's a topic about that. And I also want to talk about these young QBs and their development. We kind of touched on it on the last episode, but I think it's even bigger of a topic now with Bryce Young getting a win last week overseas against the Saints team. Um, well, 2 weeks ago. You also think about Anthony Richardson back into the mix. They bench Flacco, time to get him going again. You think of Chicago and how they fire their offensive coordinator mid-season. You see clips of Caleb Williams frustrated on the sideline, talking with people, chopping it up. It's a conversation to be made. To start off, I want to ask you two about specifically the Kansas City Chiefs. They obviously the only undefeated team remaining, 9-0. They face probably their biggest challenge yet. They see the Bills. Peter, how big of a deal do you think this game is on the Chiefs side of things if they were to lose? Would this be a big power surge in the AFC? Does that shake things up? How do the Bills be able to build off of that if they were to win? How big of a deal is this game as we head into the playoffs? A big AFC showdown here.
I personally think this is a bigger game for the Chiefs than the Bills. This may be a hot take. Pat's not having the year that he's had in the past. They're kind of winning on the back of their defense. He's turning the ball over a lot. I think if they have a chance at winning this game, he's gonna have to take care of the ball and make the most of their possessions in the red zone. I think the Bills are playing good ball right now, and if anyone's going to take them down, it's going to be the Bills.
I'm looking at these stats right here, Taji. Shout out to I'm gonna have to plug them, NFL Pro Plus. They provide some very good insight. Um, Hefty price, but it's worth it.
Worth it.
Josh Allen has averaged a career low 7.6 air yards per attempt and has targeted receivers behind the line of scrimmage at the highest rate of his career this season. Josh Allen has completed 6 of 13 passes released with a yard of the sideline for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns over the course of his career, just 6 sacks in that area, mostly to against the Chiefs, which I find interesting. Um, Recorded as combined 14 design runs and QB sneaks in the red zone this season, totaling 3 touchdowns and 8 first downs. When I read those stats and I just think about how clean the Bills are right now, if they can keep stacking that and they can get this win against the Chiefs, Taji, could this be the Bills' year on the AFC side? Could they find a way to stack this 9-0 but vulnerable Chiefs team? Like, how big of a deal could that be?
To me, this game doesn't establish anything in the grand scheme of supremacy in the AFC. The Chiefs hold that. This game is always a good game. It doesn't matter on the year. It doesn't matter on the records. Them two, they come out, they play. Josh has been known to beat them in the regular season, and Mahomes gets them back always. So I don't think it has anything to do with supremacy wise, but it could be good for Bills' momentum going forward. It could make them feel that they're stacking games. We all know the Chiefs are very due for an L, but the Bills are likely going to be down. They're definitely out Coleman and they're likely going to be out Kincaid. So they're not going to be at their strongest. And I also, I'm a big Josh Allen guy. I'd be calling for the Bills to make the Super Bowl versus the Birds every year. I'd love that. But they, it's not their year. I don't think they have enough talent. Josh Allen is not taking the shots down the field. He's not having to be Superman as much as you listed with all the stats of his air yards. His interceptions are way down because he's not throwing the balls down the field as much. I think they just don't have a good enough team to win it. I think they could finish with a good record and he can carry them pretty far, but they are no real threat to win the Super Bowl this year, in my opinion. And them winning this game doesn't change that opinion for me.
Sure, sure, sure. No, I just kind of wanted to hear what y'all were thinking on that. To kind of stay on that side of things, Peter, the Battle of the North is looking strong. AFC North, we have you guys got the Ravens next week, right? Like this is a big
Yep.
week. This is a big
Yep.
week.
Ravens at home.
Okay. They're the Ravens are on top, 7-3 record. Sure, I mean Lamar's balling out of control. He does it year in and year out. The the
Say
regular the regular season is usually he can really turn it up. And I was happy to see them. They did make it to the AFC Championship last year. They only got stronger, in my opinion, offensively, adding Derrick Henry. Their defense still needs to figure things out. That's gotta get toned up by the time the playoffs start. There's no doubt about that. But kind of the same thing, Peter. Like, how big of a deal is this for Pittsburgh if they can knock out the Ravens next week? Um,
it, PJ.
like I said, you guys had a good one last week. Coming from my side of things, I think it was a big test for us, the biggest test of the season aside from the Ravens. Um, Obviously disappointed that we lost, but they showed that we can compete, and that's kind of what I wanted to see. It was a big test for us on that. But
Hmm.
when it comes to Ravens Steelers, Peter, how big of a deal is this game? And
It
talk to me.
it's a really big deal. I mean, it's no question Lamar historically has struggled against the Steelers. Now, will he continue to struggle? I'm not sure, but the biggest test of this game is who wins the line of scrimmage. And they're a little bit different now with Derrick Henry. They have another element that they haven't had in the past. So for the Steelers to win this game, you have to control the line of scrimmage. And that seems like the key to the game every year, the turnover battle and line of scrimmage in these Ravens Steelers games. I personally think that the records don't matter when the Steelers and Ravens play each other. So I think it's anyone's football game this Sunday.
I hear you. I hear you. Um,
I needed PJ to say the Steelers own Lamar. The
They
Steelers
do.
own
I
Lamar.
it's something like 8-1 against like Steelers against Lamar, 8-2, something like that. He
Yeah.
just doesn't beat the Steelers because he turns the ball over.
it's very interesting. Looking at the stats again, a career 66.3 passer rating over four career starts against the Steelers. His worst career passer rating against any opponent in the NFL. Um, Taji kind of allude to that conversation. Like you said, you say that the Steelers own Lamar, but he is hot. How I gotta play devil's advocate here. If how could the Ravens find a way to get away from that common situation, get a win against the Steelers, knock them out, and keep it afloat till the playoffs
In
start?
my opinion, this game is the Ravens' game to win. I think they're a better team than the Steelers are. I think they have more talent, and where the Ravens defense struggles is in the pass game. Uh, No disrespect to the Steelers, but I don't think that's the strength of their team. So I think this game is the Ravens to take. But every year I say the Ravens are going to beat the Steelers, and the Steelers end up beating Lamar Jackson. And PJ tells me the same thing every single time. So I'm going to go do it again, and I'm going to say that the Ravens will win this game, and they should win this game. They are the better team, but come by the weekend, I'm sure it'll be a different tune, and the Steelers will have beaten Lamar Jackson.
I hear that. I
let
hear
let
that.
Russ cook.
But let Russ cook.
Don't give Russ a chance to cook. That's all I'm gonna say because last week we there was a point where we had a 10-point lead in the second half, and we have to build on that. And when you give seasoned veterans like Russ, a grandmaster Jedi like Russell Westbrook, he's gonna find a way to get it done. Um Mike Williams right back into the mix. I don't did has he even scored this year? Like that was his first touchdown of the season,
Think
I
so,
think.
yeah.
That was perfect. That
Um
throw was perfect. That catch was
I,
perfect.
I'm just concerned with the hangover game after tight contested battle last week. I mean, you could roll into this game like you're a little banged up. Najee's banged up. He's got a little bit of a foot injury. So we'll see. He's active. We'll see how he does, how many carries he gets, but could be a hangover game for sure.
yeah, it could. It could. One thing I will say is that aside from what 2020 we beat y'all when y'all were undefeated, but
Oh,
Mike Tomlin knows if anyone knows how to keep distractions out of the room, he's one of those
right.
guys. You know what I
For
mean?
sure. For sure.
But it is interesting, and that was a big win, statement win at that. So we'll see how that goes. I kind of want to stay on this conversation a little bit more. I want to talk about a couple more teams. Um, the Detroit Lions, they're still continuing to impress, and I think it's fair to say that they haven't necessarily reached their full form. Jared Goff throws what, five interceptions last game and finds a way to win. That's crazy work. Taj, let me ask you, the continued success of the Lions, like obviously we've never seen this in our lifetime, so how can they find a way to keep things afloat? They bring over Zadarius Smith defensively. I remember you saying how without Aiden Hutchinson, they might not be able to get it over the hump, but they do bring over a formidable replacement, not the same, but formidable. What do you like to say about the Lions, atop of the NFC?
I think the Lions are the number one threat to the NFC right now. I think the Eagles, the team that I want to see the least, is the Detroit Lions. All they have to do is stay themselves to continue their success. They believe in their coach. They believe in their system. They have a great OC who stays there when he could be a head coach anywhere else. They got a great D coordinator who's been balling out for them. They all believe and they're all chasing something. And as long as they stay on that path, I don't think anything's going to knock them off their course. But Jared Goff might, if he's going to come out and throw five interceptions. That can't happen. That's not going to work. CJ Stroud, I'm disappointed that he would even lose a game where the opposing quarterback throws five interceptions, but that just shows where his play has been at this year.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
I think the Detroit should continue to roll. I think they're going to lose a few more games here down the stretch in the division, or one they shouldn't lose, but they're going to be either the one or two seed when it's all said and done.
I hear you. I hear you. Pedro. Amon-Ra St. Brown has a receiving touchdown in a Lions franchise record 7 straight games since week 3. Zadarius Smith coming back next week, or will be debuting next week for the Lions. 7 interceptions, like Taj talked about last week, combined with Goff and Stroud. That was an ugly game, but to play devil's advocate, I got to do it. Sometimes you just got to win the ugly games. It shows more to win those ugly games than it does if you were to embarrassingly lose them. Uh, like I said, we're not really accustomed to seeing the Lions being good, Peter. How can they keep doing that? Jared Goff loses that little weird game because other than that, he's been performing surgery between him
Yeah.
and Ben Johnson. It's been surgical. But how did they reach that full form right in time for playoffs to start?
I think Taj summed it up perfectly. Jared Goff, I think that was an uncharacteristic game for this year. Shake it off, be better the next week. But he summed it up perfectly. Stay the course, like play to their identity. They have the best running back room in the NFL, I think. run the ball, lean on those guys, and I think they'll be just fine. I don't think it's last week is any concern really. They won, they legged out the ugly game, like you said. And yeah, I think if they just stay true to their identity, they'll be in a good spot come the playoffs.
Mhm. Mhm. I hear you with that for sure. I like what they're doing. As a team, as a fan of a team that doesn't really have much success until now, I like seeing the underdogs figuring it out. I'm a fan of Matt Campbell. I'm a fan of Ben Johnson. I wanted him to be our coach initially last year. When they were looking for when we were looking for a new head coach. So I respect his game. Um, I'd like to see him keep it going. The Vikings are 6-7-2 right under him. Packers are 6-3 right under him. So it will be a battle to the end, I'd say. Um, Let me see. When we think about the mid-season adjustments, let's kind of chat on this. I feel like maybe no one needs or no two teams need a mid-season adjustment recalibration more than the Rams and the Niners trying to get this NFC West. Um, the Niners still have that injury bug. They get C-Mac back. Debo kind of showed some things last week compared to he's had some very off weeks. But PJ, when you think about midseason adjustments in the Rams and the Niners sitting at second and third and the Cardinals at 6-4, how can they figure things out with these last remaining games to be able to compete or look formidable once the playoffs start?
Well, I mean, I think specifically with the Niners, Christian McCaffrey is the engine that makes the train go for them. Like having him back, having him in the locker room, that changes the dynamic of their whole team for sure. So we'll see like 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, if like what that changes for them, opens up a lot of more doors for their offense that they didn't have the first half of the season. So as long as he's healthy, which he seemed to be for the most part last week, I think they will come out to surprise some people towards the end of the year. I don't know if they're still at the level of like say the Eagles or the Lions right now, but I think they'll be ready when the dance starts in the playoffs for sure. And then for the
Mhm.
Rams, I don't know. I don't know if they're the team. I don't think this is the team for them. I mean, they had some injuries and things like that. I'm not sure. I don't believe in them. And the Cardinals, they're fun. They're fun to watch right now, but not much. Like Kyler hasn't proved a ton in the past, so I think they're just going to be a week to week kind of keep an eye on them.
I hear you. I hear you. Taji. C-Mac plays 88.5% of his snaps, of the offensive snaps last week. 54-61 snaps last week for C-Mac. I think that alludes to Peter's point more than anything else. Um, you're a Cooper Cup guy. You're a Puka Nakua guy. I don't think they'd appreciate hearing what Peter just said. How did the Rams figure it out? Can they figure it out?
For one, PJ, you hit that nail on the head with everything you said in the last one. The Rams, I think they're just too young of a team. They're not too young with the older receiver and older quarterback who have the chemistry, but I don't know. I don't think it's their year. I think, as PJ said, the 49ers getting healthy makes them dangerous. They're a contender for the Super Bowl the last 5 years plus every year. They're there. They're in the dance and they're playing well. They get healthy. C-Mac's back. Ricky's starting to catch his groove a little bit with Purdy. They're starting to figure it out. Debo's back. They should be a good team. They should have all the answers, but the Rams, I just don't think it's their year.
I hear you. I hear you.
And I don't know that Cooper Cup's going to be there for much longer.
Yeah. What is he, 31, I think, right now? 31.
I mean,
Still
this
has a lot to give.
might be it for the Niners. A lot of guys up for contract after this year too.
Oh yeah,
So they're like do or die with this roster that they have.
Yeah, yeah,
they got to go now.
they do have to go now. Just something to speak on. I appreciate those points on that. I think they were worth mentioning. Um, Moving into the next topic.